are joining us from. My name is Deepak Khemani and I am a part of the core team of Bloom. Bloom is the brainchild of Miss Payal Irani. Bloom is a flower that has blossomed and is spreading its fragrance across the globe. At Bloom, we are into physical and mental wellness, training, speaking engagements, and creating signature workshops for corporate individuals and everybody else who wants to go to the next level. Bloom has a powerful and a dynamic team which has been handpicked. They are the who's who in their respective domain. Industry veterans having an accumulated 200 plus years of experience. At Bloom, we strongly believe in co-creation, collaboration, and teamwork. I invite each and every one of you to be a part of Bloom, where together we grow, and as Bloom blossoms, it creates ripples the world over. Let me introduce my co-host, Mr. K.V. Premraj. Premraj is a futurist. He speaks on leadership, employee engagement, and management. Premraj is the co-author of 3 best-selling books, all of whom hit the #1 bestseller spot. Having spent 37 years in the banking and financial services, he is an expert in his domain. Premraj will now take the meeting forward with our guest today, who is a dynamic personality. Premraj, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest today and take the session?
I will do that, Deepak. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. We have today Mehernosh, who is India's first and only Wealth, Wisdom, Wellness, that's W3 coach and trainer, with a mission to help one discover their path to prosperity through financial fitness, mental fitness, physical fitness, and emotional fitness with the power of neuro-linguistic programming. As an associate certified coach from International Coach Federation and an internationally certified trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, Mehernosh empowers you to aspire, act, and achieve success in the 3 W's of life: wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Since 2014, as an executive coach, speaker, mentor, and trainer, he has conducted more than 1,000 workshops with more than 100 organizations, trained and coached more than 6,000 people across 18 nationalities, including senior, mid, and junior management. His footprints can be found in top corporates. Over the years, his work has been recognized with a string of coveted awards. Let us know more about what he does from the man himself. Welcome to the show, Mehernosh.
Thank you, Premraj ji. And my honor to be here on blooming with the best of the best in the world.
Thank you, thank you. So let's dwell into the first question that I would like to ask you. What are the benefits of NLP? How does one apply this in day-to-day life? And if applied properly, what transformations can one expect?
Wow. That question itself can take the entire day today.
We wish we had that much time.
Yeah. Sure. So NLP is like a nice flowery term, which we can call it as neuro-linguistic programming. What's important is not about what NLP is, but what's important is how we can use it. So I like the second part of your question better. जो है वो है, but how do we actually use it in our life? How do we make the difference in our own life? So basically what NLP talks about is how our programs operate in our own head. And the program I'm talking about, just as right now the Zoom program is operating, Facebook program is operating, all these apps are operating on your devices right now. Within our heads, within our minds, there are a lot of programs which are operating. Now, who has created these programs? It's us. Because there is one very interesting premise of NLP, that our mind is a meaning-making machine. And the same thing, different people may experience, but still each person may give a different meaning to that altogether. So what meanings we are giving it defines our program. So that is a neuro aspect, that how our wiring is there and what sense we are making out of things around us. And how we are communicating that comes out through the linguistic aspect. Now, the linguistic aspect, as we talk about, is the language, the words. And if I were to ask you a question right now, talking about communication, how much time do you think you spend in communicating with other people versus communicating with your own self? If there was a proportion that we can put to out of 100%, what do you think would be the percentage of communication with self versus others? Any thoughts?
Could be 50-50.
50-50? Okay, most people think it is 50-50. Some people
80,
think
20,
that, 80-20. Yeah, that's closer actually. 80 with self and 20 with others. Even right now, as you all are listening to me, as probably Premraj sir is thinking, how much time I'm going to take on this answer and when he can ask me the next question. That is a communication which you are doing within your own self. Okay. Some people here are sitting and being curious here. What is this W3 all about? That's even as I'm talking, something is going on in your own head. So when you're communicating with yourself, it is not about, you may not necessarily address that communication to somebody else, but in your own mind, lot of talk is going on. Right now, what I gave you an example is very trivial, very on the spot, in the moment thing. But now imagine if that is the communication that is going on, if there is a communication which is going on in your mind at all times, what are you telling yourself? What stories are you telling yourself? For example, some people say that lockdown ho gaya, now in the lockdown, opportunities are not there, I can't do anything. Whereas there are other people who are saying, oh, lockdown is a brilliant opportunity to learn and grow and bloom. Now that's a different way in which people are communicating to themselves. And that is what makes the difference in the way you think about your own self, in the way you think about other people, in the way you think about the world. Sometimes you say that universe supports me in whatever I do. And somebody says that, whatever I do, people don't support. That is what makes the difference. The words that we use are so empowering. Later on, as we go ahead, I'll give you some more examples of that also, if we have an opportunity to do that. So that's about the linguistic aspect. Now we think that our words we use the words to describe our experience. Right? Something happens to us, we narrate how we feel, what we think, and we talk about it using words. Language is a medium to describe an experience. That's what most people think. Now, the interesting part is that language is also a medium that shapes our experience. How we choose to tell something, say something, believe in something, all our beliefs, they shape our world around us. They shape our experience around us. How we take a view on a setback in life, how we think about certain obstacles in life, what we think about certain opportunities in life. So language not only describes our experience, it also shapes our future experiences, because that is what forms the third block of neuro-linguistic programming, which is the programming part. Whatever we constantly say to others and to ourselves, that is what becomes a program in our own mind, our patterns of thought. And these are the patterns, if we are able to identify, we can figure out, are these patterns really working for us or are they not working for us? But the first step starts with awareness. If you are not aware only kya pattern hai, what does it matter? No problem, it will just go on. You will not even realize. So to answer your question, Premraj ji, about how does neuro-linguistic programming help you to transfer your own self? The first aspect of that is becoming more aware about your patterns. Realizing whether they are helpful to you or not helpful to you. What are your beliefs? So broadly, what are beliefs, by the way? Beliefs are neither true or false. Beliefs are not right or wrong. Beliefs are not good or bad. Beliefs can only fall into two categories. They can either be empowering, that is moving you forward, or they can be limiting, moving you back. So now the point is, whatever you are believing, is that moving you forward or backward? And although this entire field of study is called neuro-linguistic programming, I would like to give it a different twist to the name itself. Of course, with the permission of the founders who have created this field. But what I bring into the field is that there is a neuro-linguistic reprogramming. The beauty is that once you realize that you can become aware of your patterns, once you realize that you can define what patterns are empowering, what patterns are limiting, what few people choose to do with that knowledge, with that awareness, is they start defining themselves by saying that ab to main aisa hi hu, I am like this only, I have figured out my patterns, now I can't help it. The purpose of NLP is not that you just identify your patterns and sit with that and limit and label yourself that this is what I am. The idea is now, wherever needed, can I reprogram my patterns? Can I reprogram whatever I have seen, whatever I think I believe about life, about others, about myself, about my own capabilities? Is there a scope to do that? And NLP is all about creating that scope. So that is how NLP can be used to transform your life. There is lots more which gets covered under NLP. Lots more. This is just what I explained, is just a kind of a tip of the iceberg, just to explain what NLP is.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a vast topic, and like you said, we might even request you to do a bigger masterclass one of these days.
Sure, I would be glad to do that for Bloom.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's nice. That's nice of you. Please share some success stories from your life using NLP and some anecdotes from people who have been helped by NLP, or what we call as reprogramming.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's where the crux lies, right? Because I can keep saying all about what NLP is, but the thing is that how did people make use of it? How did people transform into it? And a lot of success stories that can be shared. I think one of the things I can start with is my own success story. It's more of a personal victory for me. That many people right now wouldn't even believe what I say, what I'm going to tell you right now. That when I was in my schooling days, in my college days, I used to stammer and stutter. Combined with that, all sorts of anxiety and nervousness when facing any new person. Forget facing crowds of people, but even any new person, if I have to interact with, socialize with, that was like, it would give me jitters. In fact, it all began with one episode in my life when I was in the 8th standard. I got an opportunity to speak on the stage, and it was an elocution kind of thing which I went on stage to speak. My content was super. My content was already there because I was academically good. But the moment I went there, I started getting jittery, nervous, and my friends started mocking me. And that was the time I made a decision in my life. Okay, bhai, I will never ever speak on stage. I will never ever go in front of people. I don't want to meet any new person because people are always judging and making fun of my stammering and stuttering. And that was where I used to be. Now, gradually, when I got understanding of what NLP is, how it works, how I can use NLP to master my own emotional states, There is one very powerful principle in NLP that we think that we are not having resources. We think that we don't have the right kind of attitude or right kind of confidence within us. We call it resources in NLP language. The principle in NLP is that there are no unresourceful people. There are only unresourceful states. States are states of mind. If a person is having fear or nervousness or anxiety in a certain context, that does not mean to say that that person is nervous or unconfident or an anxious person. People are not that behavior. You are larger than your behaviors. You are larger than your emotions. Now, through NLP, the moment I realized that I am larger than my own emotional states and my own behavior, that is a lot of change work that happens in the flow of NLP. But when that awareness came up, the realization happens that, okay, this is only one part of me. I can be nervous when I want to be, and at the same time, I can be confident when I want to be. And if I can be confident when I want to be, there are times when I have been confident before. It could be in a different context altogether. Maybe when I was playing a game of chess or something like that, I was totally confident. Or when I was studying maths, I was totally confident. That was my favorite subject. So now if I can bring in that same confidence and copy paste it into my moments of nervousness or stage fright, wherever I'm there in public, creating presentations, I can bring that same state of mind whenever needed. That is what I learned with the help of NLP. That is what I teach today to my participants. How you can create that state on demand. It's actually like state on demand. So that is one of the success stories, which is my personal victory. Today, when my school friends and college friends see me in this profession, they wonder, they wouldn't expect that I would be over here as a corporate trainer, as a speaker, as a coach. But that's what life is. To share a few more success stories, if I'm allowed to.
Please.
Yeah. So there was a participant in my session, and he was looking at doubling his business. Okay, he had made all well-laid plans. He had got the funding, everything well in place. But somewhere, whenever some major project came up, whenever some major assignment came up, whenever a major opportunity came up to speak and present about his own business or get a good, proper client, somehow, somewhere, things would just not work. Now, he would say that I'm doing all that it takes, I'm giving my best shot, but why is this not happening? How many of you all here can relate to something like that, either in your life or with someone else, that you are well prepared, but every time you notice there is a pattern, that whenever this thing has to happen, it just, somewhere we use a fancy word like sabotage. We end up self-sabotaging our own efforts, and ultimately the results don't happen. Now, what is happening over here? That is where there is a difference between what we want to achieve through our conscious mind and what our subconscious mind is secretly working on at the back of our head. I call it secretly because somewhere we are not even aware about what our subconscious mind wants. With the help of NLP, we can understand what is it that our subconscious mind actually needs. Our subconscious mind is not a villain. It is a very, very helpful creature, wants to protect us at the right time, wants to give us the best things at the best way. Now, what was happening in this person's life, in this businessman's life, was that he was a very family-oriented person. Okay, he gave a high value, high importance to being with the family time. And somewhere he realized that there was some positive intention behind that thing not working out, behind him goofing up at that end moment. Think about it. Anything that you think is a negative behavior, anything that you think that is coming in the way, I don't know why this is happening, I don't want it to happen. At a conscious level, we are very intellectually intelligent to know that I should not be doing this. But somewhere the subconscious takes over, because it knows that there are some gains which it was getting otherwise. For example, the subconscious knew that if I get that big order and my business starts growing, now I may not get enough time with my family. So at that particular moment, gone, crash, self-sabotage. And that person keeps wondering what happened. Another similar example of this positive intention of the mind was with a guy who was looking for getting into a right kind of relationship. Spent years and years searching for the right partner, but ultimately some goof up may happen and things don't materialize. Somewhere the subconscious wanted the freedom. Okay, I don't want to get, bonded with someone where I have to be answerable to someone. So at a conscious level, in full integrity, he was going, and he had no conscious awareness about this. That's the point. Now, what we look at in NLP is something called as ecology, ecological balance, where you may want something consciously, but there are other areas of your life as well. What needs to be understood is that my identity, for example, that person's identity of the businessman, that person's identity was not businessman. The person was playing the role of the businessman. And while playing the role of the businessman, it was important that he also understands that he has other roles to play as well. And if at a conscious level, if I'm only choosing to focus on one goal, one role for that matter, what am I sacrificing? What am I compromising in terms of other roles? I may not even be consciously aware. And when this came to his awareness, when we did something which is called as ecology balance in NLP, where we work on all the areas of life, that time when his mind realized that he actually consciously focused on how he can work on family as well. How it is not either or. It does not have to be. The subconscious believes that if he gets this, then this will not come. I don't want it that way. But when you start creating awareness, even at the subconscious level, that it is not a either or thing. It can be both. NLP is all about creating more options, more flexibility, that how it can be both. How, in fact, paying time to family can actually thrive the business. How thriving the business can actually help the family. And they are not I versus you. They are not family versus business. Both are me. I'm part of both. And that is the beauty of it. So recently I put up a quote on social media that whenever you're confused between choices, it's not about this or that. How about making it ye or wo? How about changing the English or into the Hindi or? Which is looking at how I can achieve this and that both. These are just some of the success stories. There are lots more. Basically, one thing which we also look at in NLP is about getting out there and setting your goals. But what is peculiar to NLP about goal setting? You may find a lot of goal setting programs out there. Without getting into too much detail, I just want to give you one broad overview of this, that goal setting is done by the conscious mind. But it is the goal getting which is done by the subconscious mind. So the NLP process of goal setting focuses on goal getting, not just setting the goal. How do you motivate and propel your subconscious to become so actively thrilled and excited about achieving that goal?
Fascinating.
That is, thank you.
Fascinating subject, and thank you for sharing your own story and a couple of other anecdotes, which really piques our interest. Is mind mapping also part of this? Mind sharing something on that?
Yeah, mind mapping, even I'm also a certified trainer in mind mapping. Mind mapping is basically a thinking tool. It is not originally part of NLP. NLP was founded by Richard Bandler and John Grinder somewhere in 1975 times. And around the same time, in 1975, another gentleman in UK, Tony Buzan, developed the tool of mind mapping. So equally effective, very powerful. It's like today, how many of y'all here are taking notes of whatever I'm talking? Yes. Typically, thank you. And continue to take the notes. Great. Typically, when we take notes, what do? We write with a typical black or blue pen, right? We write one below the other. Now, our mind loves colors. And what we are giving? A single color. That to a conditioned way of working, black or blue. Single color is monotone. And what is monotone is monotonous. And what is monotonous is boring. So mind mapping is actually a visual representation of a visual description of whatever you are thinking. Even if you're making notes, if you can make it with the help of a mind map, it's a very simple tool. I keep this set of pens handy with me on my table at all times. When I'm traveling, I keep it in my bag at all times. Wow, Premiraj, you too. Great. So when you make notes with color, your brain registers more about it. That is just one example of using a mind map. But more powerful example of using a mind map is wherever you are thinking, wherever you want to create more ideas, create it with the help of a mind map. We can even do a masterclass on mind map for Bloom. That's an entire different insightful topic itself. But that is based on a simple principle of radiant thinking. When we are making notes the traditional way, we are doing it as linear thinking, one below the other. Radiant thinking is like blooming. I mean, the Bloom logo is radiant, so I can only think of that right now, right? So radiant is, everything in nature is radiant. I use a mind map even to present my own profile. Just for a minute, am I allowed to just share that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so here someone asked that who I am and if I have to circulate my profile, this is the way it goes. Now it is in one snapshot, a visual representation of the entire profile, biodata. You can create a profile for Bloom like that. You can create your own personal profile like that. You can create your own professional profile like that. Or even if you're having all the entrepreneurs and businessmen out here, if you're having some services, what is it that you provide? What all areas you are into? You can create a complete mind map of your own self, of your own business. And it becomes that much more engaging for the audience, whoever your audience is, whether it's your client, your prospect, your vendor, your public, they get to see a one snapshot of it.
Thank you. You're adding a lot of radiance to the show.
Thank you.
In the COVID ravaged setup, what is your take on the MSME segment with regard to their resurgence and reinventing themselves for the future?
Wow. Very interesting question.
Thank you.
I mean, there is again one tool. I mean, I keep coming back to NLP. But NLP is something where you look at other options and what is it that you think is possible. Sometimes our set patterns, our set programs, our set knowledge and experience and education tell us that yehi karna hai, I am good in this field, I will continue to do this. This is what I know about it, I will continue to do that. Now, how can we explore beyond that? How can we say that there is something so much more to it than what I think there is? Now, for the MSME, I would say, firstly, how do you define MSME? Okay, there are criteria which are given, which are laid down that this is the limit on the revenue or whatever, those slabs are there to put you in that category. Now, okay, let those slabs be for the regulation purpose. How many MSMEs here use that as an identity? I am an MSME. I am a small business owner. Sometimes in your own profile, people are writing, I am a small business owner. Now, if you continue to write it that way, what's going to happen? You are going to ever remain a small business owner. Right? When I started off into training, initially I started off by saying I'm an aspiring trainer. And I saw many people talking about that. I'm an aspiring trainer. When I learned the language of NLP, I changed it to say I am a trainer. I am a trainer, I'm a coach, I'm a W3 coach. I created that new identity. And not to judge anybody over here, but the fact is that those who kept saying 5 years ago, I'm an aspiring trainer, some of them even today continue to call themselves an aspiring trainer. It's a lot to do with the language that you use. I will answer that question, Premraji, but I'm just coming to the identity level of how we look at ourselves, that I am this, I am so and so. And that somewhere defines who you are. Instead of saying I'm an MSME, if I say that I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur. Now, is there more possibility of scaling up instead of saying I'm an MSME? Right? So firstly, change your language. Scaling up is not just about having high level plans that how I can scale up the business, how I can put it on autopilot so that I can rest and make money while I'm sleeping and the business goes on working. It's about using the power of the language that tells you who you are even before you have already been there. In your mind, at least. It's not about fooling your mind, but in your mind, at least you start believing that you are already a big business owner. Now, to answer that question, if there are MSMEs over here in the audience, I would only invite you to think like a big business owner. Whoever is your big business owner model, role model, what would that person do? You will get a lot of insights just from that. One of the principles, again, I keep coming back to NLP because that is something which I live by. That is something which I breathe, live, talk, and walk. One principle in NLP is that if somebody can do it, anybody can do it. All the records have been broken based on that. Somebody saw someone breaking a record and then a new record got created. A very commonly known record is the 4-minute mile. Nobody knew that it was considered physically impossible to complete 1 mile run in 4 minutes. Roger Bannister broke it, and then within a few weeks, it got broken again. Again, within a few weeks, it got broken. If somebody can do it, anybody can do it. And secondly, another corollary to that, which is my personal favorite, is that if I have done it before, I can do it again. Well, a shout out to all the MSMEs over here. You have started something in spite of all the challenges, haven't you? You have brought the business to whatever level it is in spite of all the obstacles and challenges, haven't you? If you have done it before, you can certainly do it again. COVID is just one more challenge which is there. Now, talking about COVID, coming to the specific question which Premraji has asked me, is that what can be done? It is a time, I like the words that you use, the resurgence and the reinvention. I think every moment, every moment or every crisis is an opportunity to research and reinvent yourself. And I will give a simple example of my training business. Last April 2020, I had scheduled a 3-city NLP tour. A 3-city NLP workshop, which was in Bangalore, Pune, and Mumbai. And I started marketing that from Jan, saying that, okay, you have to come. And we did a lot of Facebook marketing, spent a lot on ads, got people, did a lot of free intro sessions also. And March came, lockdown happened. Registrations were there. There was some registrations in the pipeline. Everything got stalled. 3-city to everything was, nothing was happening. So earlier we were thinking of doing NLP in these 3 cities with local audiences in each city. Now, what can we do if COVID happens? We can't do a workshop like that anymore. Immediately, we thought of going online. Mid-April, we announced an online batch. The 350 registrations that we had, I'll share with you. We had around 10 people averagely in Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore, respectively. For which I had to put up a venue cost and all the efforts 3 times, right? Because I'm doing in 3 different cities. The moment I announced it online, I had 50 registrations.
Wow.
For a 21-day back-to-back NLP workshop, full certification course. Initially, I felt that NLP is such an experiential program. How will I take it in the online space? A lot of challenges, but let me tell you one thing. All the challenges are only in the mind. And just because challenges are in the mind, the solutions are also only in the mind. We have all the resources that we need within us itself. So, brought out what can be done. We revamped all the activities that we do in the NLP offline workshop. We did that within the online space, used the platform of Zoom, used the breakout rooms, made it as interactive as possible, had as many offline practice sessions, offline as in offline the Zoom, but in the WhatsApp groups. And that was the beginning of a new spark altogether. That was resurgence for me. And what started in April 2020 as the first online NLP workshop continues even now. Today, I'm having my 11th online NLP workshop. It happens on weekends now. But now it's become a preferred mode. And back-to-back workshops are happening. In the lockdown, I have certified more than 500 people as NLP practitioners and almost 100 people as NLP master practitioners.
Wow, that's huge.
Yes, thank you. So COVID, I made a full form of COVID. What is COVID? The virus is not out there. The virus is within the head. And the vaccine is also inside the head. So COVID stands for crisis, opportunities, victories, insights, and discoveries. Yes, crisis is there. But what use you're going to make, and whether you are in MSME or whatever field you are in, even if you're a parent or a teacher or a trainer, just think what would your role model have done in that case? What differently can you do? The non-lockdown days are not there to define how your business works. People who did not grow in the lockdown for whatever reason, one of the reasons was that they chose the pre-era to define the context. They said, this is the only box in which I can work. In fact, COVID has helped you to literally think outside the box.
That's very true. Very true.
Yes.
It's all in the
I
mind.
hope I've answered that question. Yeah.
Yes, it's all in the mind.
Thank you.
Please enlighten us as to what is it that you do on the wisdom part of the W3, which will interest those on the show.
Sure. Wisdom. I'm really interested that you chose wisdom out of wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Nice. So yes, because see, wealth is something that is tangible. Okay, you can define how much you can, what you want to do, what steps you want to take, whether you can earn money or save money or manage money. Wellness is something that you can actually do by working on your fitness, your health. What is wisdom? What is wisdom, firstly? If you don't have the wisdom, how are you going to work on your wealth and your wellness? There is a lot of knowledge out there, and we are all drowned in a field, in a kind of overflow of knowledge and information. Now, what you choose to pick up from them, how do you internalize that and not just intellectualize that, is what wisdom is all about. And the offering that I have under the umbrella of wisdom is NLP. Because NLP tells you how to decide, how to make your decisions, how to understand yourself, how to understand other people, how to work along with other people, how to make the right choices, how to know that there are many more choices than what you think you have. So that is one integral part of wisdom. Now, wisdom, interesting part of wisdom is that, can I really impart wisdom to someone? Can wisdom be imparted? I can only show you how to discover your own path to wisdom. Just as if there is wealth, if I'm teaching my wealth clients, I'm not going to share my wealth with them, right? To make them wealthy. I cannot impart my wisdom to you to make you wise. But through techniques like mind mapping, through techniques like NLP, through techniques like a lot of creativity tools like lateral thinking, fixed thinking hacks, all these elements come under the umbrella of wisdom. So, anyone here feeling stuck for choices? Anyone feeling at the end of the road? Abhay, I don't know what to do, whether it's because of the lockdown or because of some people around you or because of some relations, whatever is happening. That is where you need wisdom. And not go by what you are reacting, what your common default patterns are, but understanding how do you respond to that. So there is a trigger, there is some situation which happens outside, and there is a meaning that we give to it, which makes us react to that. Right? Now, if we pause, we realize that there is a space. This is a very famous quote by Viktor Frankl. There is a tiny space between what happened and what meaning you are giving, between the trigger and the response. And if you realize that space and if you pause in that space, you can come to your senses that what do you have to do? That is what wisdom is about. You can read books of Swami Vivekananda, Buddha, Osho, whoever you want to read, Sadhguru. Lot of gurus are there and we respect all of them. But only by reading, you will only end up intellectualizing if you don't apply. So the entire idea is how do I internalize, integrate, and not just intellectualize. So that's what wisdom is all about.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, tell us a bit more about what do you do to enhance the emotional and physical fitness of your clients? And this is my last question to you before I ask Deepak to take over.
Okay, wonderful. So, yeah, there now we have moved from wisdom to wellness. Now, wellness or fitness is not just about being free from diseases. In fact, this is a very vital distinction between health and fitness. You know, if I ask people over here, are you healthy? Are you all healthy? Most people will say yes. Okay, and if I ask, are you fit? They will start thinking. Firstly, they will wonder what is the difference between healthy and fit. Okay. And they may realize they are healthy, but they may not be fit. Not everyone who is healthy may be fit. Well, what is the difference? Health is absence of disease. Health, having a good health is when I go for a health checkup and I see that, okay, on all parameters, I'm doing fine. My blood sugar is in control. My oxygen levels are in control. Everything, blah, blah, blah. All cholesterol levels are fine. Okay, done. That is having good health. But fitness goes beyond that. It's not just absence of disease. Absence of disease is arogya. But fitness is swasthya. Having the readiness of energy to be physically fit to do whatever needs to be done whenever it needs to be done. For example, if you are visiting a client, you are late for a meeting, or almost on time for the meeting, you have visited the client's place and you have entered the building, client is on the 10th floor, lift is not working. Can you, in that moment, decide to climb up 10 floors? That is what fitness is about. Your health report may show absolutely normal. But if you're not able to climb up 10 floors in that moment, then sorry to say you are not that fit. So on physical fitness, what I work on is to enable my clients to work on their strength, general strength. I'm not here to make you bodybuilders or weightlifting champions, but general physical preparedness. It's called as GPP, general physical preparedness, which include elements like strength, endurance, agility, and flexibility. And today we have been talking a lot about staying safe. Stay home, stay safe. I would like to share with you a full form of SAFE over here. SAFE. Strength, agility, flexibility, and endurance.
Wow.
That is what physical fitness is about. If you are able to tick mark yourself on these 4 parameters, then yes, you are physically fit. And again, a lot of that has got to do with the mind and the body. Coming back to NLP, sorry, I keep coming back to NLP because that is my core. That is, mind and body are interrelated. You may decide to join the gym, but your mind is telling you, Aram kar liya. What's the big sense of going to the gym? Or why do you want to step out for a walk? You know, there is COVID out there. What are you doing? But around you, look at people. There are people who are walking, right? Who are going for walks. But then if that is an excuse that automatically comes up to you to say that because of COVID, I should not be going there, you would be the first one to jump that they are all COVIDiots, as we choose to call them today. Right? So what meaning are you giving? It's got to do with your physical fitness as well. And same thing even with your emotional fitness. Physical fitness is not just about the SAFE of strength, agility, flexible, endurance, but also your stress levels, your mental wellness, your physical, your emotional wellness. So in emotional fitness, I have a program called as the Emotional Fitness Gym, where there are a set of exercises, mental exercises that you do 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, just remove them and do that. And the objective of doing that is to master your mind, master your own emotions rather than allow your emotions to control you and master over you. So that's about physical fitness, emotional fitness. I think we can keep talking till the whole day, but we don't have that much time. So I hope I've answered your question, Premraj, and thank you for asking such insightful, powerful questions. I hope they would have helped our audience a lot.
Yeah, they would have. And I would request now Deepak to take this intellectually stimulating discussion forward. Deepak, all yours.
Yeah, wonderful questions and super answers, Premraj and Mehernosh. And I want to ask this, Mehernosh, to you.
Yeah.
Why isn't this being taught to our children in schools and colleges?
Wow. आपने मेरी दुखती रग पे हाथ डाला. You have touched my pain point, right? In fact, when I learned all these techniques first time, when I learned NLP, when I learned mind mapping for that matter, I'm a chartered accountant and you've seen my degrees and all, academically done very well, but I didn't know mind mapping at that time. In fact, I saw few friends of mine doing mind mapping out of their own choice. I used to I confess, I used to mentally ridicule them. ये क्या color कर रहा है? They're children. Till I realized how mind mapping works. Today, when I teach mind mapping, I first debunk that myth. That mind mapping is not just a colorful presentation. It is much more than that. So like that, whether it's mind mapping, NLP, emotional fitness, even your money management habits. So Deepak ji, you are also a financial advisor, right? So think about it. If I were to ask you that question, why these techniques are not taught in school? I am having that same pain a lot within me. And I cannot change the education system, although I'm in talks with some people from the ministry. But the best I can do is to reach out to people. I've started programs for teenagers. In fact, my NLP for teens is starting from tomorrow. And I've kept it separate because I don't want to bombard the kids with the jargons that are there in the field of NLP. And what this is called and what is the deletion, distortion, generalization. These are some of the words which you'll find in NLP. But for kids, what matters is how to go there and how to become academically brilliant. how to become, how to be able to manage their own expectations, how to manage their own hobbies, their own friends, how to manage their own parents, how to manage teachers. So now that is where it becomes applicable. And I so wish that we can bring it to the education, to the formal education. Mind map somewhere is taught, but I see it being taught more in the international schools, not that much in the smaller level schools, but I think it should be taught. And I'm doing my bit. I would reach out to all of you to please do your bit, right? And maybe you can connect me with the right people if you know someone who can influence this, where people can know about mind mapping, NLP, money management habits, physical fitness, emotional fitness, all of that. And I would have been a different person if I knew that in 8th standard, right?
all of us would have been different people.
Yeah.
It took us 10, 20, 30 years, to gather that wisdom, to understand wellness, to understand wealth, to understand the 3 W's which you are talking about. Just imagine if a 17, 18-year-old passing out of high school, or some 21, 22, 25-year-old graduating with honors, but having all the wealth of this experience and not just having read books and memorized those books to give an exam,
Exactly.
So that would, I'm sure things are happening and things will change. We have comments from one of our participants, Preksha. She says that there are schools which have started this, which is good to know. Good to know.
Really good to know.
I'm sure, and I'm sure a collaboration between Bloom and what you are doing will actually see to it that we touch more lives, and as you said, you have a program especially for teens. That thing will work.
Let's start blooming people from the right age.
Yes, bloom with Bloom, indeed. So I want to ask you another question. We hear a lot of times, be positive. In whatever situation you are, be positive. How is telling somebody to be positive different from understanding NLP, or are they the same, only they are being said different?
Okay, good question, and very relevant. Well, NLP also talks about how to look at things positively. But it is not by not acknowledging the facts and saying that, no, forget. It's like saying, I'm poor, but then saying, no, I'm not poor, I'm rich. That is mindless positive thinking. I would not encourage that. People who are trying to lose weight, you'll find some quotes or some motivators telling you that, just start saying that you are thin and you are fit and you are lean, and you'll start working on that. Okay. We call that affirmations. I'll give you a take on affirmations as well. But, you can fool the whole world. You cannot fool your own subconscious mind. So when you start affirming like this, that, I am fit and I'm lean and mean and I'm a lean, mean machine and I'm slim, trim, your subconscious will say, "Tu to pagal hai, mere ko bhi pagal kar raha hai, I don't care." Right? And it will have no effect at all. Thinking positive is firstly acknowledging and somewhere appreciating whatever you have. Okay, I'll give the example of working on the weight loss. Right? If someone is saying that, I'm having a body, I don't like my body because it's not making me look good. I would say think positive and at least acknowledge you have a complete body. Right? How many people are blessed with that? The moment you start disregarding your body, it's not going to give you what you want. So positive thinking is not mindless positive thinking about flipping something and saying, no, this is not the fact. Positive thinking is not about denial. It's about recognizing, accepting, acknowledging, and being gratitude, having a sense of gratitude towards that. And then knowing, I acknowledge my body, I'm fully working with my body, and let's work together to make it a better body. The same thing in NLP when we look at positive, let's say, sorry. Just to give you an example, lockdown. Someone may say lockdown is a curse. My business is kind of gone for a, it's not working at all. Now, positive thinking over there is, Not that my lockdown has not affected my business. Acknowledge, okay, lockdown has affected business. But what is positive about the lockdown? What is positive about the lockdown that could help your business? Maybe it's time for you to reinvent in your skills, to learn something new. Maybe that is positive about it. Maybe it's giving you time to be with your family.
Yeah.
So it's not denying a factual thing. It's about looking at with a positive interpretation, positive side, and talking about affirmation. If you have to make an affirmation and you want to lose fat and you want to make an affirmation, instead of saying that I am lean and mean and thin, start saying I am working towards the ideal body.
Yeah.
Daily and regularly, I am doing whatever it takes to get into a proper shape. Now, that is a powerful affirmation because that is a process-related affirmation rather than a result-related affirmation.
Yeah.
Since result is not yet there, your subconscious will discard it. But process, your subconscious will accept and will support you in the process.
Indeed. Indeed. Clearly, very well qualified and explained the difference between just plain simple positive thinking and then probably daydreaming about it, or working towards it and then getting it done, making it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this W3 of yours, wellness, wisdom, and wealth is actually another W. It's a wholesome concept.
Yeah, it is.
All three of them can't individually exist without each other.
Yeah.
You can't have only wisdom and have a bad body, a physically unfit body, and not have wealth. You can't be 100% wealthy people but not have wisdom. So it's a complete process. It's a triangle, 60, 60, 60 total, 180 degrees. A lot of people are extremely rich and wealthy but extremely poor in their health and probably a little bit in their knowledge also, wisdom also. So how do you fit this into a person who is not properly covered, not properly within that triangle? Yeah. What do you change?
Yes. So I have a coaching program, which is the W3 coaching program, which works on all these three aspects. Now, people want to work, and again, another misnomer where people get consciously misled is to think that I have to work and focus only on one. And they think the others will take care of themselves. They know that they are not going to consciously ignore them, but they think that let me focus on this, the others will take care of themselves. Now that is what is something which does not happen automatically. And like the example I was giving you about self-sabotaging. In order to take care of itself, your subconscious will start sabotaging what you are doing consciously. And that is where it's important to give a conscious attention to all these three aspects. Basically, the W3 philosophy has come up from the Indian traditional way of looking at the Tan, Man and Dhan. It's the trinity of Tan, Man and Dhan, nothing else. But that's what makes it completely holistic. And the way I approach this with my clients is that I help them to figure out where they stand in each of these areas, in wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Just by creating more awareness that what they would ideally want to have and where they are. And these three areas are just a broader framework. Within them, there are certain further elements. Like, for example, wealth would have saving habit, spending habit, investing habit, long-term vision, short-term requirement, liquidity. You know the aspects of wealth. So all those are part of the wealth. When we talk about wellness, all the SAFE that I spoke about earlier, all that is part of it, even emotional fitness, even social well-being, mental fitness. So all that is part of all the three W's. And now we create an entire chart that where you are, where you would rate yourself and where you would want to be. And then how do we achieve that balance so that one is not at the cost of the other? So that's the entire detailed approach.
Yeah. As it is said, being rich is not equal to being wealthy. You also gave that example. Being fit is not equal to being healthy. Yeah. Having knowledge is not equal to having wisdom. So even if you think you have the three, you actually don't have these three Ws. You may probably have the other three who are not actually fitting into our three W3. So wonderful discussion, Mehernosh. I mean, it's a Sunday afternoon. It's 1:30. I would love to keep on talking and, picking your brain and taking out answers from you. But we have 25 people in the room. I would like people to, ask a question, and I would like to give them time. So if anybody is interested, please say yes or raise your hand, unmute yourself and ask your question to Mehernosh.
Deepak, can I ask one question?
Yes, Abhijit, you can ask, and then Preksha. Yeah.
So my question to Mehernosh is, being a CA, an ICWA, a CFA, an MBA, a CFO before 40, and then starting something on the 3 Ws and or the 3 As, as you say, the abundance, activeness. What was the turning point which made you change from a successful corporate career to a professional consultancy on NLP and on the 3 Ws?
Yes, thank you for the question, Abhijit. So basically, if you had asked me this like 10, 15 years ago, that what do I want to become in life? That time I was in my corporate world, happily being a CFO and a VP director level roles that I played with multiple organizations. I would have said I want to, become an MD or a CEO, or I want to enhance my financial territory to become a global finance head of a multinational. That is the path that I was starting in those days. And I did my MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj with that intention itself, to broaden my corporate experience sphere. Now, when I did my MBA in Jamnalal Bajaj, I started even conducting group studies for my batchmates. Okay, that just happened. My batchmates approached me, let's do a group study. And then they saw me answering more questions. So they said, Abhi, tu idhar nahi, udhar khada reh ke sikha. So I took charge and I started teaching. And the dean of Jamnalal Bajaj Institute observed me doing that. And she got a good response that people are really liking what I'm doing. And she approached me, invited me to teach in Jamnalal Bajaj. This happened somewhere in 2011. And when I started teaching, it was a role of a visiting faculty. Even today, I'm visiting faculty with Jamnalal Bajaj. But that time when I started doing that, I was teaching 1 day in a week. But somewhere I started getting more satisfaction, more fulfillment on that 1 day compared to that 6 days in that fancy, nice office cabin of mine. And in fact, that became a kind of a turning point to make me realize that my passion, my purpose lies over here. And it also made me realize why I had not even thought about it earlier, why I had not even picked it up earlier. Because I didn't pick it up because of that one instance which happened in 8th standard. My entire career choice of becoming a chartered accountant, I realized on hindsight, was because I wanted to run away from presentations. And chartered accountant, okay, tick marker kaam karte raho, I'll be happily busy in my own silo, not interacting with much people. But then my work shone, I grew in the corporate ladder, no complaints, wonderfully grew. But then when this happened, when I started teaching in college, I realized that this is what I enjoy doing even more. Then I formally took up and learned courses on NLP, all the way to become a trainer in NLP. Also other trainer courses, public speaking courses, coaching courses, like I'm a certified coach from ICF as well. So then I started transitioning gradually from my corporate field to where I am right now.
Thank you.
Preksha, go ahead.
Hi, good
Unmute
afternoon.
yourself.
Hope everyone is doing well. So this
Hi,
simple
Preksha.
question. Hi,
Yeah.
hi, Mehernosh. So this simple question that says that tracking your wealth record and wisdom record together is much important. Today or tomorrow, I affirm that I'll maybe a billionaire. I may be someone a big giant or something like that. But how do we keep a track record on daily basis? Everyone has 20 hours, but everyone are unable to achieve. And without mentor, it becomes very difficult until and unless we get it. So what are that loopholes that, to achieve that long-term goals, to get the things in place, to recognize the being of your own self to 100% that today I'm blessed with 24 hours and make the utmost utilization for myself and everyone. How to put a track on, receiving that? What is the key point that, that, okay, I have planned it, achieved it, planned it, achieved it. That the hurdles to get cleared. How do we do that?
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Welcome.
So first step starts with awareness. The first step of any change is awareness. And the awareness is that where you are and where you want to be. So now when you do a global, like what I told you, a holistic picture about where you are and where you want to be. How would you rate yourself? If I take broadly wealth, wisdom, wellness, or if I get into the detailed sections as well of whether it's relationships, health, fitness, energy levels, mental fitness, creativity, all the elements. If I were to rate myself on a scaling from 0 to 10 on each of them, where am I right now? And 5 years down the line, where do I want to be? What is the gap? Now that gap will tell me where I need to focus on. Now, while I focus on what that gap is, I don't have to focus only on that one area where I've identified the gap. I need to focus on all of that. So Preksha, as you said, you have to have your action plan in all the areas, in all the roles that you play in your life. Now coming to the specific point that how do I allocate my 24 hours to all the roles? Now, while it's important to break it down into manageable bits, in NLP we call it as chunking down into manageable chunks. So when you're chunking it down into manageable chunks, I would say that having a chunk of a day and 24 hours chunking down into all the areas that you want to play, all the roles that you're playing, may actually end up putting more stress on you. You decide a feasible level of planning, maybe a week. Like one day I can keep aside just for family. Or half a day. Second half of a day, I'm going to do all my brainstorming activities, my strategies, how I'm going to grow my business. My me time can be one half a day. And the other half can be maybe having some networking meetings. So planning can still be done in smaller chunks. But if you try to fit all the arenas of life in 24 hours, you might find it a bit challenging. So take up a larger week, maybe a weekday week or a week, including the weekends, whatever works for you. And there you can make it more manageable in size. Like if you are, just an example, for me, I allot 1.5 hours every day to my fitness regime. Either I'm working out at home with bodyweight training or I'm going out for a walk or running on the Juhu beach. Now I'm waiting for the beach to open up these days. But that's the thing. So some of the things you'll be able to apportion every day as well. And some of the things you can spread it out so that you have a well-balanced week. So I hope I've answered your question, Preksha.
Yes, I think it was a very well answered question. And this also tells us, that if we are on a process, I'm on a way to becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, or I'm on a way to lose weight. I can't keep on checking it on a daily basis. At some place I will get lost. As you said, use chunking. Check your value of your portfolio after a month probably. Do your workouts daily and check how much weight you lost in like 10 days or 15. If I keep on doing it daily, I'll probably end up becoming miserable.
Very true. Thanks for adding that point, Deepakji. While you allocate your week over all the tasks, all the roles that you play, the monitoring, don't keep doing it on a daily or even a weekly basis.
Yes.
See, if you're working out, as I said, I'm working out every day, it doesn't mean that I'm stepping up on the weighing scale and checking my weight every day.
Exactly.
Right? Even if I'm talking about managing my finances, I cannot go and check the market every day.
Every day, exactly.
Right? Otherwise, my blood pressure will go in line with the Sensex.
Anybody else would like to ask a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Shalini has a question. Does NLP also include body language? Yes, it does. It does, and in fact, somewhere it also kind of differs with the body language studies too, and that's the interesting part of it. Can I give an example on that?
Oh, please, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think most of us have studied or read something about body language.
Yes.
Can you tell me what this body language means?
Closed body language.
Closed body language. Now people saying that this is a closed body language. If I have to talk to someone who is sitting like this, matlab, you know, he's close to receive more information. He will not be understanding what I'm saying. He will only be arguing in his own head about what I'm saying. He'll be resisting. But can there be any other meaning to this?
Yeah, it could be probably sitting on the table, you know.
Yeah.
His hands could be there. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't know where to keep his hands, so he put it on the table.
Exactly. Or it could be an embrace. Else? He's actually waiting to embrace you, you know.
Yeah. What else could it be? Yeah, very good. What else can it be? Can it be that he's just feeling cold?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can it be that he understands better if he's able to somewhere touch himself?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So NLP talks about looking at body language and at the same time not jumping to a conclusion.
Yes, not judging. Correct.
Not judging. Because body language sciences is not wrong. It is true. It is fine that, yeah, this is a sign of a close person. But having said that, body language study is based on majority. Maybe 80 to 85% of the times you see someone like this, it means that it's close body language.
Yes.
But it somewhere ignores the minority.
Yeah.
NLP teaches you how to be open to the fact that there could be something else. There could be other ways of interpreting the same thing.
Yes.
Now, just to mention a bit more about the same aspect, there are certain speakers, trainers, public speakers who will go on stage and they will say that I don't want anyone to fold your arms when I'm talking.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen that. Especially in my corporate days, I remember a very specific trainer who came and said, please unfold your arms. Now, just because he thinks that this means closed body language, he's telling everyone to unfold your arms. In fact, throughout the day, if he sees anyone folding the arms, he will call out to them and say, hey, open your arms. Now imagine if this is a person in NLP, we call them people who learn kinesthetically.
Yes.
If this is a person who learns better by being in touch with himself, what a big disservice you are doing to that participant.
Yes.
So that is exactly what NLP will help you to look at beyond body language meaning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I answered that question, Shalini.
Yes. Super answer. Satish, you want to ask?
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Mehnosh, being a chartered accountant myself, I'm so glad that, you know, as a CA, you've been talking about everything other than accounts, though you did talk a little bit about wealth. So it was more a comment than a question. But it was truly a fantastic perspective. And I'm blessed that I'm part of Bloom to attend this program. So just a comment, not a question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for logging in. Thank you, Satish, for logging in and staying till the end and acknowledging it. Thank you so much. Premraj, go ahead.
Mehnosh, thank you for your time.
Thank you for bringing me here.
This was informative, instructive, and educative. We go back with greater wisdom on wealth and wellness. We are richer by this experience. We look forward to having more interactions with you through Bloom. Wishing you continued success in your quest to make the world a better place. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here and wish you all the best. Thank you, Bloom.
Thank you so much. Thank you.